Most killers get caught. Eventually, evidence surfaces. A witness comes forward. DNA matches. Someone talks. But some killers, the ones I'm going to tell you about tonight, were never caught. They lived among ordinary people, walked through ordinary streets, and to this day, no one knows who they were. These are 5 of the most disturbing unsolved serial killer cases in history. Cases that law enforcement agencies, FBI profilers, and independent investigators have spent decades trying to crack. And tonight, you're going to understand why these cases still keep people awake. Let's begin. He sent them puzzles, and they still couldn't catch him. This is the story of the infamous Zodiac Killer, California. Picture this: a killer who doesn't just want to murder people, he wants you to know about it. He wants to be famous. He wants to play a game. And the game is this: catch me if you can. The Zodiac Killer first struck in December 1968, targeting a teenage couple parked on a remote road in Benicia, California. Both were shot. Neither survived. There were no witnesses, no motive, no leads. That alone would have been a disturbing cold case. But the Zodiac wasn't done. He struck again in July 1969, then again in September, then again in October, stabbing 2 people at a lake in broad daylight, tying them up methodically before attacking them, then casually walking to a nearby payphone to call the police himself and report his own crime. But what truly set the Zodiac apart, what made him unlike almost any killer before or since, was what he did between murders. He wrote letters to newspapers, to police, taunting, detailed, specific letters that proved he was the killer beyond any doubt. He included pieces of his victims' clothes to prove authenticity. He sent coded ciphers, encrypted messages he dared investigators and the public to decode. One of those ciphers, when finally cracked, contained the chilling message: "I like killing people because it is so much fun." He threatened to shoot children off school buses if his letters weren't published on the front page. He signed every letter with a crosshair symbol, his calling card. And then, sometime in the early 1970s, the letters stopped. The Zodiac claimed 37 victims in his letters. Investigators confirmed at least 5. The real number has never been established. More than 2,500 suspects have been investigated over the decades. No arrest has ever been made. No definitive identification has ever been confirmed. The most scrutinized suspect, a school teacher named Arthur Leigh Allen, was investigated extensively but died before a case could be built against him. One of the Zodiac's 4 ciphers wasn't decoded until 2020, over 50 years after it was sent. The others remain unsolved. Somewhere in California in the late 1960s, a man sat down at a desk, wrote letters to newspapers about his own murders, and mailed them. He had a name. He had a face. He had people who knew him. But he was never caught. He called himself the Zodiac's heir, and he was never found either. the original Night Stalker, or Golden State Killer, California. For decades, this case was actually two separate cases, and no one knew they were the same person. In the mid-1970s, a burglar began terrorizing neighborhoods in Sacramento, California. He was meticulous, careful, almost obsessive in his preparation. He would scout neighborhoods for weeks before striking. He studied his targets, learning their routines, their schedules, who lived with them when they were alone. He would sometimes call his victims on the phone before breaking in, just to hear their voice, to confirm they were home. Then he would enter at night, and he would attack. Between 1976 and 1979, this man, who became known as the East Area Rapist, committed at least 50 attacks across multiple California counties. He was meticulous. He left almost no forensic evidence. He bound his victims and their partners, stacking dishes on the bound partner's back so that if they moved, the noise would alert him. He stayed for hours. He talked to his victims. He knew details about their lives. Details he could only know if he had been watching them for weeks. Then, in 1979, the attacks stopped. The East Asia Rapist simply disappeared. What investigators didn't know at the time was that he hadn't stopped. He had escalated. Beginning in 1979 and continuing through 1986, a killer known as the original Night Stalker began committing murders in Southern California, targeting couples in their homes at night. The crimes were methodical, controlled, the work of someone experienced in entering homes undetected and controlling multiple victims simultaneously. It wasn't until 2001 that DNA technology finally connected the two cases. The East Area Rapist and the original Night Stalker were the same person. One man had committed at least 50 rapes and 13 murders across California over a decade, and had walked free for his entire life. He had even written a poem, mailed to a newspaper, taunting investigators. One line read, "I'll crunch your bones." In 2018, after investigators used consumer genealogy databases to trace DNA to a family tree, a 72-year-old former police officer named Joseph James DeAngelo was arrested at his home in suburban Sacramento. He had been living quietly in a house with a yard. He confessed to 13 murders and admitted to being responsible for numerous other attacks. He was sentenced to life in prison in 2020. For over 40 years, a murderer had been hiding in plain sight. A former law enforcement officer, a man who knew exactly how investigations worked and used that knowledge to stay free. He sent a newspaper a victim's kidney in the mail. Jack the Ripper, Whitechapel, London. No list of serial killer cases is complete without him. Not because he was the most prolific, not because his crimes were the most elaborate, but because over 135 years later, with all of modern forensic technology, all of the investigative resources available to us, we still don't know who he was. It was the autumn of 1888 in Whitechapel, a crowded, desperately poor district in the East End of London. In the space of roughly 10 weeks, 5 women were murdered. The killings were savage and precise. evidence of someone with at minimum some anatomical knowledge, possibly medical training. But Jack the Ripper didn't just kill, he performed. He taunted the press and police with letters. Hundreds of letters were received, though most were dismissed as hoaxes. But several were taken seriously, particularly one that came with a human kidney, preserved in wine, a kidney that a physician determined had belonged to one of the victims. The letter accompanying the kidney read, in part, that the writer had fried and eaten the other half. The city of London was gripped by terror. Police resources were stretched to their absolute limits. Plainclothes officers patrolled Whitechapel around the clock. And yet, the murders continued. And then, just as suddenly as they had begun, they stopped. No arrest, no body identified as the Reapers, no confession that was ever definitively verified. Over 135 years since, more than 100 suspects have been named. Investigators, historians, criminologists, and amateur sleuths have each made compelling cases for different individuals. A Polish immigrant, a member of the royal family, a surgeon, a barrister, a painter. One of the most recent theories put forward in a 2023 book, none of these theories has ever been proven. Jack the Ripper wrote letters to the people who were hunting him. He sent them body parts. He operated in one of the most densely populated cities on earth. And he simply walked away. He left a note on a dead girl's body promising to do it again. The Freeway Phantom, Washington, D.C. This case is one of the least known on this list, and one of the most disturbing. Between April of 1971 and 1972, 6 young girls were abducted, raped, and murdered in Washington, D.C. They ranged in age from 10 to 18 years old. Their bodies were found along roadsides and highways in and around the city, which is how the press came to call the killer the Freeway Phantom. But what separated this case from other tragic serial murders was a single, devastating detail. One of the victims, an 18-year-old named Brenda Woodard, had a note in her coat pocket when her body was found. The note was written in her handwriting, but it was dictated by her killer while she was still alive. He had made her write it. The note read, in part, "This is tantamount to my insensitivity to people, especially women. I will admit the others when you catch me, if you can." Then he killed her and left the note on her body. He was taunting investigators through the hand of his victim, making her participate in his cruelty even in her final moments. The investigation mobilized significant resources. The FBI became involved. The case appeared on national television. And yet, nothing. No credible suspect was ever charged. No DNA match was ever confirmed. The identity of the Freeway Phantom has never been established. Metro Police in Washington, D.C. are still offering $150,000 for information leading to an identification. 50 years later, 6 families are still waiting for an answer. The note still exists, written in a dead girl's handwriting, dictated by a man whose name no one knows. He targeted couples and wrote poetry about it. The Colonial Parkway Killer, Virginia. Our final story takes place on a stretch of scenic road in Virginia that most people drive without a second thought. The Colonial Parkway runs through historic Virginia, connecting Jamestown, Williamsburg, and Yorktown. It's beautiful, tree-lined, quiet, the kind of road where couples parked at overlooks to watch the sunset over the river, which is exactly why a killer chose it as his hunting ground. Between 1986 and 1989, at least 3 couples were attacked and murdered in their vehicles along or near the Colonial Parkway. A 4th couple disappeared completely, their car found abandoned, their bodies never recovered. What made investigators certain this was a single killer, and what made the case deeply unsettling, was the methodology. The killer approached vehicles where couples were parked. In some cases, evidence suggested he may have posed as law enforcement officer to get victims to lower their windows or step out of their cars. Victims in one attack were found partially outside the vehicle, suggesting they had been ordered out before being killed. The killer left almost no forensic evidence, no shell casings in one attack, no fingerprints, nothing that could be traced. It was as if someone with intimate knowledge of forensic investigation was deliberately eliminating every trail. Over 130 suspects have been investigated in the 4 decades since. No arrest has ever been made. The theory that the killer may have had law enforcement training or knowledge has never been ruled out. Couples still park along the Colonial Parkway. The overlooks are still there, still quiet, still beautiful in the Virginia evenings. And somewhere, in a house, in a neighborhood, in an ordinary life, the person who committed these murders has been living freely for nearly 40 years. The case remains open. 5 killers, 5 cases, 0 arrests, with one exception, decades too late. Here's what stays with me after researching stories like this. Every one of these people had a life outside of what they did. They had neighbors. Some had families. Some had jobs that required trust and responsibility. The most frightening thing about these cases isn't the violence. It's the ordinary. The fact that someone capable of these things existed in the world, walked through the same streets, bought groceries, maybe waved to the person next door, and yet no one knew. That's the part that's hardest to shake. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.